Hello, Algebra 1 students. This is lesson 59. Our objective is how do you solve systems of equations by using substitution. Remember, previously we've learned about solving systems by graphing. Now we're going to use more of a numerical approach. And there's a couple different ones, and the first one we're going to learn is substitution. So first of all, let's recall that if we have an answer, the answer to a system, if we're talking in two variables, is a point. So our answer for these is going to be a point. There's going to be an x value and a y value. Remember, as you're working with them, you could get something like this. And that's whenever you have one answer like this. And those are probably the most common, and I think all of them on your worksheet today give you 1 point there for an answer. And that's so you just work it out, and if you get an answer, then that's what you get. It's possible to have no solutions, so 0 solutions, and that's whenever you have parallel lines so they don't cross. And if you're working something out, and this will make a little bit more sense later. If you're working something out and you get a false statement, something like 2 is equal to 7. If you get something like that that is never true, that's whenever you'd say no solution. So if you got something that's never true, something like this, then that's whenever you'd say no solutions. If you're working it out, and maybe if you realize that they're both the exact same equation, you could jump to this conclusion. Or if you got something that you're working it out and you got something that's always true. Like maybe if you got like 2x is equal to 2x. Well, 2x always equals 2x. Or if you got 7 is equal to 7. Something like that. That's always true. That's whenever you'd say an infinite number of solutions. So let's go ahead and get into this. The process of solving by substitution, I found is easiest to teach in 3 simple steps. Well, 3 steps. You decide if they're simple. The first step is to pick an equation. So you'll have like 2 equations like this. You pick one and you solve for a variable. And I'll talk to you about why you might want to pick one versus a different one. To solve for a variable, that's whenever you get something like, you'd get to say x or y equals blah, 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 blah. Alright, some variable, either x equals or y equals, and then just mumbo jumbo. And in this mumbo jumbo part on the right, there's not a y or there's not an x. Then step 2, and notice I go to the right for step 2. I use this value that I found, the blah 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 blah, and substitute it into the other equation. And then I solve it for the remaining variable. So at the end of step 2, I should either have x equals or y equals a number. And then you take that number from step 2 and you plug it back in here for step 3, and you find the other number, and then you write it as a point, an x and a y. So let's try that real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and just write step 1, step 2 as I work these out, just as it makes it go easier to grade and for me to follow your work and for you to keep track of where you're at. So please do the same on your homework. So step 1, I just need to pick an equation. And in this case, notice they both are already solved, y equals, y equals. So it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go and pick this first one. I'm going to write it here. Y is equal to 2x plus 6. So step 2, I'm going to take the other equation, y is equal to 5x plus 12. Remember what this equal sign right here means. It says that y is the same thing as this. So y is the same thing as this. So that means y is going to be the same thing as this. So I can say 2x plus 6 is equal to 5x plus 12. So notice this y is the same thing as that. I substituted. That's what a substitute teacher does. They come and fill in for me whenever I'm sick or gone having a baby or something. So that's what so we're substituting. That's why it's called solving by substitution. Now we just have to kind of work this one out. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, which is going to give me 6 on the left-hand side is going to equal to 3x plus 12. Subtract 12. It's going to give me negative 6 is equal to 3x. Divide by 3. It gives me x is equal to, that becomes 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and it's negative. So there's half my answer. Now I'm not just trying to solve for x. I need to solve for an x and a y, so I have an answer as a point, right? So now I'm going to go to step 3, and I'm going to take this equation that I had in step 1, at the end of step 1, and write it down here. Y is equal to 2x plus 6. Now I'm going to substitute again. Notice x is the same thing as negative 2. So I'm going to say y is equal to 2 times x plus 6. So notice instead of that x, I wrote in its other name, negative 2. So that means y is going to equal to negative 4 plus 6, or y is equal to 2. So my answer is going to be negative 2, because x comes first, and then 2 for y. Now I kind of skipped over 1 because it's actually a lot easier, because notice the second one already has a number there for y. So really, step 1 and step 2 is already done for me, because I already have a variable. So I can go straight to step 3. I'll go and write that there. And take this first equation, y is equal to negative 4x plus 24. And I'm going to substitute in y is the same thing as 4, so y is going to be the same thing as 4. So I'm going to say 4 is equal to negative 4x plus 24. Alright, so I just substituted that y in for 4. Now let's go about solving. I'm going to add 4x. So I'm going to have 4x plus 4 is equal to 24. Subtract 4. 4x is equal to 20. Divide by 4. And I get, coming over here, x is equal to 5. There's half my answer. My other half of the answer is actually already given to me. So then my answer is going to be 5, 4. 5, 4. Alright. Now, 2 more. Let's try to look at number 8. I'm going to go ahead and say step 1. I had to pick one of these equations. Now, earlier I picked one because it already said y equals or x equals. And neither of these are in that situation where it says x equals a number or y equals a number. But notice there's an x here that just has a 1 in front of it, and a y here that has a 1 in front of it. Whereas these, I have to divide by a negative 8 or negative 7 in order to get those by themselves. So I'm going to pick this first one for step 1. Not that I couldn't pick the other one. I would still get the same answer. But it's going to be a little bit harder to do that. So I'm going to go and pick that first one and say x plus y is equal to negative 1. I'm going to just solve for x. So I'm going to subtract y. And I get x is equal to negative y plus 1. So notice now I have x equals something, so that brings me to the end of step 1. So I'm coming to the right and do step 2. I'm using this other equation, negative 8x minus 7y is equal to 8. Remember, x is the same thing as this, and I have an x right there, so then I'm going to say negative 8 times negative y plus 1 minus 7y is equal to 8. So again, this right here is the same thing as x. X is the same thing as this. So x is the same thing as this. I've just replaced it. Now I have to go about solving this. So I'm going to go and distribute that in. That's going to give me 8y minus 8 minus 7y. That came from right there. Is equal to 8. So I'm going to combine like terms. 8y minus 7y is just going to be y minus 8 is equal to 8. Add 8 to both sides. Y is equal to 16. There's half my answer. Now I'm going to come over here for step 3. X is equal to negative y plus 1. So x is going to be negative 16 plus 1. Again, I did that 16 because y is the same thing as 16. means x is going to equal to negative 15. So my answer is going to be negative 15, 16. Alright, let's try one more, and then I'll turn you loose there on your homework. But notice on these, there's not like an x that's just by itself or a y that's by itself. All of them have what we call a coefficient, a number next to them. So it doesn't really matter which one I pick, but I have to pick one of them. And I think I'm just going to pick this one, the second one, just simply because I see this y that has a 2 next to it versus a 3 or a 4 or a 7. I just think that one's going to be a little bit simpler just because it has a smaller number. So that's what I'm going to go with is I'm going to say step 1. I'm going to pick the second equation. So negative 3x plus 2y is equal to 12, and I have to solve for a variable. I'm going to try to solve for y, so I'm going to add 3x. So I'm going to have 2y is equal to 3x plus 12. Dividing by 2, I get y is equal to 3 over 2x plus 6. So this 3 divided by 2 is how I got that. This 12 divided by 2 is how I got the 6. That brings me to the end of step 1 because I have y equals. Now I'm going to go to step 2. That's where I plug into the other equation. So I'm going to go ahead and say 3x plus 4y is equal to negative 12. Remember, I have a y right here, and I know another name for y. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to substitute that in. So I'm going to say 3x plus 4 times y, which is 3 over 2x plus 6 is equal to negative 12. As I distribute this in, well, I would say, right, this 3x, that just came in from there. That's going to be 12 over 2, which is going to be 6, so 6x. And then 4 times 6 is 24. It's equal to negative 12. Combine those two together, 3x's plus 6x's is 9x's. Subtract 24. 9x is equal to negative 36. Divide by 9. Get x is equal to negative 4. It's half my answer. Now I need to plug it back in here, so that's step 3. Write this equation, y is equal to 3 over 2x plus 6. Y is equal to 3 over 2 times negative 4 plus 6, because remember that negative 4 is the same thing as x. So this is going to give me negative 12 over 2. So y is going to be negative 6 plus 6. We add those together, that gives you 0. So it's the other half of my equation. The x comes first. Negative 4 and the y is 0. Alright, I think that should get you the basic idea on how to solve all of those. Again, don't feel stupid to watch it again. Feel like you're doing a smart thing and actually wanting to learn. So good luck filling out the rest of these here on your worksheet.